Hello again. Welcome to another segment of the Grassy Knoll. It's Friday once again, and this is the 30th day of July, 2004. This is Vyzygoth. Harry is literally doing damage control. He took a lightning strike about a day ago. It fried everything. We are not streaming on Pasco Radio right now, so he's taking care of business over there. We do have Thought Criminal with us back from Texas, that's where our guest is from also, down that way. With us in the first hour is author Gaylon Ross, who will tell us all about the Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission. I mean, folks, forget about Republicans and Democrats. These are the ones that shape the governments of all nations. This is your shadow government, or they are your shadow governments. And now to our guest, Gaylon Ross. As a brief bio, Gaylon served as a first lieutenant in the Army Security Agency, which is a branch of the NSA, or the National Security Agency. His military training was in the field of crypto analysis, and he served as a company commander with an intelligence unit on the Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, in Chorwon Valley of South Korea, and that was from 1956 to 1957. After leaving active duty, he began his career in the petroleum industry, which lasted well over 20 years. The past 17 years, however, he has served as an international management consultant, working in not only the States, but in Japan and Mexico, Canada, England, and Iran. He has written extremely interesting books, Who's Who of the Elite and The Elite Serial Killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. Currently, he's working on his third book, and now we want to welcome him to the Grassy Knoll. Hello, Gaylon. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Why don't, if you don't mind, let's go with the group that's the oldest of at least the three that I mentioned, and that's the Council on Foreign Relations. Can you take that back to England and its birth?
Well, the Council of Foreign Relations really originated back when the round tables were founded over in South Africa, with the headquarters in Oxford, England. Every nation in the world has a round table. The round table in the United States just happens to be called the Council on Foreign Relations. The round table in England is called the Royal Institute of International Affairs. The one in Canada is the Canadian Institute of International Affairs. The one in Chile is the Chile Council on Foreign Relations. The one in China is the Republic of China Council on Foreign Relations. So they're all round tables that were formed back a couple hundred years ago. The Council of Foreign Relations was actually founded in 1921.
Also, going back to this actually was birthed by Cecil Rhodes, was it not?
Yes, Cecil Rhodes founded the Round Table.
And just for our listeners, if I could, I have the book before me, Tragedy and Hope. Have you ever read that, Gaylon?
Yes, that's a very thick book. It's well worth reading now.
Yeah, you could do some harm with this book.
Yes.
It was written by Dr. Carroll Quigley, who was a professor of Bill Clinton's in Georgetown.
Yes.
And he wrote the history. Actually, Tragedy and Hope is like a global history, but he also wasn't shy about talking about this plan that Cecil Rhodes has. And it's also, Gaylon, in another book called what? The Anglo-American Establishment, I believe.
Well, the American Establishment was written by Tony Sutton.
Yes, that's true, but that's right. But Quigley wrote one called The Anglo-American Establishment.
Okay. All right, that's a different book.
Right. And by the way, that book you mentioned and many of Sutton's are on your website, are they not?
Yes.
And by the way, that website is www.4rie.com. So if people, while they're listening, would like to look that up, you'll see exactly where we're going with this interview. But just out of this, on page 131 of Quigley's book, some of the names that were involved in the beginning, and that was Arnold Toynbee, Lord Milner, Arthur Glazenbrook, Sir Henry Brickenough, Lord Grey, Lord Esher, Lord Balfour, and let's see who else we have, William Stead, and and not to be left out, Lord Rothschild. So that was a pretty heavy-duty group that started that roundtable over in Great Britain, was it not?
That's correct. And the Rothschilds helped fund the round table.
Right. So we're looking at the Council on Foreign Relations, established in 1921, is that?
Yeah, 1921, and it's made up of, the members are U.S. citizens only. and they started off in New York City, and later expanded to Washington, and then today there's a committee, they call it, in most of the major cities in the United States.
What I did was, we used to be able to look for certain members on the website CFR.org, and then they changed it, and it was very difficult to find anybody on it. So what I did was I wrote them and asked for a roster, their latest roster of memberships, and it's up on my website. But isn't it interesting that we have on in that organization both Republicans, Democrats, military heads, business people, and also a lot of media luminaries like Brokaw and Diane Sawyer and Ed Bradley. What do you make of that?
Yeah, almost all of the anchors of the major networks are members of the Council of Foreign Relations. Dan Rather, Gary Cutley, Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, just on and on. Frank Cesno, Paula Zahn.
But now, what do you make? You know what I thought was interesting, by the way, and that is that both Ken Starr and Clinton are in the CFR. So, I mean, how much could you make of the supposed enmity between the both if they're in the same organization?
Well, there may be infighting amongst members, but they always stay in line with the Council of Foreign Relations. For example, that there's a bylaw that says they're not allowed to mention anything at all about the Council of Foreign Relations.
That's right.
And they'll be immediately expelled and probably blackballed from the job they're in and fired, and their loans called if they have any outstanding loans. And so they're probably worse than the mafia.
But when you see that Republicans and Democrats are both on this, then how in the world can you believe that this fighting that takes place before us on TV is really real? In other words, they give us a show, don't they, and more or less take care of business in the CFR?
That's correct. And the elite have already decided that Bush will be replaced by Kerry. And the confirmation of that is when I learned that John Edwards attended the Bilderberg meeting about a month ago near Milan, Italy. And Kerry said in one of his statements before the public that when he was giving the credits for Edwards, he said he just attended this, that, and the other, and he attended a conference near Milan, Italy, but he didn't say it was a Bilderberg conference because they're not allowed to say that.
It's interesting that you said that about Kerry, because I believe, too, that he had been tapped. And do you think that perhaps having Edwards go over was kind of an indication that he was going to get his marching orders from the Bilderbergers?
Yes, Kerry couldn't go himself because there are a lot of patriots that follow these Bilderberg conferences, and they report on anyone that they see. And if Kerry showed up, well, they would let the world know about it. And so he sent Edwards over there in his place to get the marching orders. And within 2 weeks after Edwards returned, Kerry made him the vice presidential candidate.
Do you think that with the inception of the CFR, that I believe voting counted? It may not count after we go completely electronic, but back, for a good 3/4 of the last century, is it possible that the CFR did all it could do to manipulate public opinion as to which president they would like to see seated?
Well, the Bilderbergs really are the ones. They're the ones that decide world leaders. Bill Clinton attended the Bilderberg meeting before he became president in '92. Tony Blair attended the Bilderberg meeting the year before he became Prime Minister of England. The Prime Minister of Spain attended the Bilderberg meeting before he became Prime Minister of Spain, and John Edwards attended the Bilderberg meeting just before he became Vice President. So the Bilderbergs actually select the world leaders. But the Council of Foreign Relations, the inner circle, are heavy hitters within the World Secret Organization.
Do you believe that when there were references made by Dick Cheney a while back about shadow governments, do you think that might have been a wink and a nod about the CFR?
Yes. Well, he knows that there's a power even above the Bilderbergs and the Council on Foreign Relations Trilateral Commission. He's well aware of that. I've got Cheney on video that I got a copy from C-SPAN where Dick Cheney said a year ago at the Council of America's meeting that they are on track to complete the free trade area of the Americas by January 2005. Now that may slip because Congress refused to ratify the CAFTA, or the Central American Free Trade Area Agreement, and so that may move the January date back into 2005, but it'll probably be April or something like that before they ratify that.
I had a question forwarded from a listener in Canada, and it's addressed to you. Do you have any idea what's in store for Canada when we go to an American Union?
Canada, United States, Mexico, all the nations of Central and South America and Caribbean islands will become the American Union, which will be a carbon copy of the European Union. There'll be one central government, one monetary system, and it'll be the dollar. There'll be one constitution, and it'll be a new one. It won't be our present constitution. But there'll be one central bank located in Washington, where it's located now, the Federal Reserve System. And there'll be one military force, one judicial system, and all of this for Canada, the whole works of both North, Central, and South American and Caribbean islands.
Do you believe that along with the American Union comes the free trade, which we saw in the form of NAFTA and such, actually, as a plank of the manifesto, this is not necessarily a good thing for workers, is it?
The workers, the intent is to normalize the labor force worldwide, and they will allow the third world nations to maybe double their standard of living, which they'll go from $100 a year to $200 a year. But the people in Canada and the United States, the standard of living will drop more than half.
Do you think we'll see that sort of thing take place as early as 2005, or do you think that'll...
no later than 2006.
All right, and we'll start to see wages perhaps stabilize and then drop?
No, they're going to gradually start descending.
Right.
In fact, they've already started dropping. And another thing that's alarming is that the most of the labor union members or leaders in the United States are members of the Council of Foreign Relations, and so they do not represent their membership. They represent the elite.
All right, we're going to go to a break. We're talking with Gaylon Ross, an author of Who's Who of the Elite. The elite serial killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. His website is www.4rie.com. Go check that out if you're able to right now. And we'll be back. This is the Grassy Knoll with Vyzygoth, the sword criminal, and Gaylon Ross, our guest.
Well, now, Texas, I'm just a little lost, fading down. Yeah, like a morning star ahead of me, fading out. But if I make it to the border of that Rio Grande, Guess I can make it for one last sunset across the prairie.
Just because you may be paranoid, it doesn't mean they're not out to get you. The Grassy Knoll continues.
Yes, we're back. We're with Gaylon Ross, an author of note. We're talking about the not-so-secret organizations that kind of hide in plain sight. We're talking about the Council on Foreign Relations. And now back to our guest. And Gaylon, we were talking about the CFR. Let me ask you something. Are you familiar with a personage by the name of Edward Bernays?
No, I'm not.
All right, it's funny because he wrote 2 books right in the 20s. He was probably the father of public relations, and he was, ironically, the nephew of Sigmund Freud. But in his one book, I believe it was, Propaganda, he kept talking about the importance of, as he put it, the Council of Public Relations, or on public relations, and it was only one word off from the Council.
Yes.
And I'm only saying that because I don't think it was a coincidence. I think there was a wink right then and there that he knew who the shapers of public opinion would be, and that certainly was the CFR.
Probably the same people that founded CFR were involved in that organization.
Sure. And going back to the origins of the CFR, which is, you would agree, the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England, would you not?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that one of the functions of the RIIA and Cecil Rhodes' dream was to bring the United States back into tow to the crown? How do you feel about that?
That's exactly right, and that's the reason that they created the Civil War in the United States in order to break down both the North and South so that they could be taken over and brought under the crown again.
And and I think he was also responsible for making the statement that they wanted the United States to fight the battles that their best blood could not, because they took a very heavy hit, didn't they, in the Boer War?
Yes.
And so as much as we see ourselves as allies of Britain, how do you feel about the United States going to their aid? I mean, do you believe that necessarily World War I and World War II were our fight?
No. In fact, none of the battles that we've been involved in have been our fights. The elite have spent the blood of the American men and women in battle, and also the taxpayers' money to support these wars. And the reason is that they financed both sides of every war since about 1865, and then they also financed the reconstruction of the nations that are destroyed in these wars. And so the wars are created by the international bankers for their profit.
The CFR on this side, was that very much advanced by Rockefeller at that time?
Rockefeller joined the CFR in 42,
mm-hmm.
and he became chairman in 1970 and was chairman for about 15 years and has been honorary chairman ever since. But he has been the most powerful person out in public in the world, but he is an agent of the Rothschilds.
Were there any antecedents of David Rockefeller, say John D., or anything that was involved with the CFR back then?
Well, the CFR wasn't founded until 21. Right. So John D. Probably was a member of a secret organization then, but the council didn't exist at that time, so he was not a member, but all of his sons were.
Okay. If we can move away from the CFR and then take a look at the Bilderbergers.
Okay.
Can you give us a thumbnail of the history of that organization?
Yeah, the Bilderbergs were first founded. Their first meeting took place at the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, the Netherlands, in 1954. And ever since, they have retained the name of that hotel in the name of their group, and they call it the Bilderberg Conference. And they say they don't have members; they have attendees. However, there is a controlling group of the Bilderbergs that are lifelong members. David Rockefeller has attended every Bilderberg meeting since 1954, and there are a number of people that are. There's about 3 dozen people that are members of the Bilderberg's Council of Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commission, and so these are the inner circle people. But the real top of the heap is David Rockefeller and the Rothschild family.
Have you ever heard of a book called The Most Secret Science?
No, I have not.
By Archibald E. Roberts. I work in a library at Gaylon, and we've gotten donations in the last couple of years just serendipitously from history professors, and their collections have been absolutely revealing. It's not necessarily the things that you see that make the top 10 book list, but in this one, Mr. Roberts, who's a retired Army, was saying that the Illuminati morphed into the Bilderbergers. How do you feel about that?
The Illuminati actually took over the Freemasonry back in 1776.
And they
have been in control of the Freemasonry ever since. And the Illuminati still exists, but it's not as powerful as the Bilderbergs is.
Yeah, I'm sorry for stepping on you. I was going to say the agent for that change was Adam Weishaupt.
Yes.
Right. The way I look at it, and tell me your feelings, when I take a look at a hierarchy in my own mind, if you believe this is a spiritual situation, which I do, a lot of our listeners don't feel that way, but still in all, there's something there for them on the secular level as well. We all know something's happening. But I see actually the religion of Luciferianism as high-degree Freemasonry. How do you think that fits in?
Yeah, people have asked me if I have to name one person that's over all of this. I'd say, well, he's not a person, but the one that's behind it all is Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these are Luciferian organizations.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell people, and that is, especially if you were ever a fence sitter as a Christian, if you can't see what's happening now and not understand it as what's been foretold, I don't know what to say, but unfortunately, even in evangelical churches, I don't think a lot of people are getting what's taking place.
Well, the elite are trying their best to change all the churches and make them a Unitarian group, all one. And in fact, they've in the revisionist changes to the Bible. The King James Bible is the one I've always used, but the modern day revisionist Bibles have taken a lot of the parts out of the Bible that are detrimental to the elite.
I'm reading from Mr. Roberts' book. He says, they are no longer called the Illuminati, but the Bilderberger family. Yet they still retain their aura of mystery and attempt to present a general air of philanthropy. The United Nations is their vehicle for cosmopolitanism. Their members may be found among the CFR and the Rockefeller baby, the Trilateral Commission. They have infected our learning institutions, our governments, our religions, communications media, and so forth. But you will never find one of them who is truly illuminated by the sun of reason. How do you feel about that comment?
Yeah, that's a good comment. The elite actually own all of the major news media, and there was the Congressional Record, I believe, was either 1907 or 1917. I believe it was 1907. One of the congressmen inserted the information in the Congressional Record about a study made by the elite to see how many of the newspapers they would have to buy in order to control the news. And they looked at 150 newspapers and ended up learning that they only had to buy 25 newspapers in order to absolutely control the news, and that's what they did. They also own Reuters and the Associated Press.
And so they tied up print journalism when it was the only vehicle of communication at the time.
That's right. And
they moved also into radio and TV, did they not?
They're not as heavy in radio, but they absolutely control television. And the two free sources of information are talk radio and the internet. Mm-hmm. But everything else is very heavily controlled.
I don't know if you have this experience because I don't know how much you get to share with people who have never heard this. But when I talk with people, they keep looking at me, and invariably you have to say it always goes back at least in the United States, to the robber baron families. It's the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Fords. And they look at you, no, that can't possibly be. How could they pull that off? But they did do it, didn't they, Gaylon?
No question about it. But the Rockefellers are the main actors in the United States, and really David Rockefeller. Both the Rockefeller family and the Rothschild family, they pick a leader for the family, and that leader represents the family. And David is chosen by the Rockefellers to carry out this part of the country.
With Gaylon Ross, and we're speaking about the not-so-secret societies that hold great global sway, and yet very few people know about them. This is Grassy Knoll. This is AM 1350, WDCF, Dade City, Zephyr Hills, and Point South. We'll be back after these messages.
Nights are long since you went away. I think of you all through the lonely days. My buddy, nobody's quite so true. Miss your voice.
The following program contains the truth and is void where prohibited text or otherwise restricted by law. Parental guidance suggested.
We're back at the Grassy Knoll. Our guest is Gaylon Ross. He is the author of The Who's Who of the Elite and the Elite Serial Killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. And can we do some ordering information and give some people some contact numbers or websites where they might be able to see what you're about and what your works are?
Well, yeah, my website is www.4rie.com. That's 4rie.com. And they can also call my toll-free number, which is 800-410-5571. That's 800-410-5571. Either way, either the toll-free number or the website.
Can you share with us, and that's if you wish, with what the contents of the third book is going to be about?
The title of it is The Elite, Don't Dare Let Us Tell the People, and I really can't go into it yet.
Okay. All right. When do you think that might be available?
Probably in September, October at the very latest.
Going back to the Bilderbergers and their inception.
Before we do that, a lot of people are not aware of the fact that the African Union has been founded. On July the 11th, 2000, the 53 nations of Africa created the African Union with one peacekeeping force, one central bank, one monetary system, and one court of justice, carbon copy of the European Union. And if you don't believe it, do a web search on the African Union, and you'll find out yourself.
That I didn't know. That's interesting.
And CAFTA, actually, the Central American Free Trade Area agreement was signed by the Central American countries on December 17th, 2003. And then on May of 2004, Bush signed the agreement, but the Senate has not ratified it. They actually went into recess without signing it. So he was not able to get that approved before they went into recess.
And isn't it interesting that these developments happen without the least bit of a squeak on mainstream news?
Yeah, almost no one knows about the African Union, and I just stumbled across it. I just said, I wonder what they're doing in Africa, and then so I started putting in keywords like Union of Africa and African Union. All of a sudden, it popped up.
Well, that union or federated idea also is an extension of Cecil Rhodes, is it not?
Well, the African Union is just another step in the global union, which is being carried out by the Czar of the global union, which is Dave Rockefeller, who is an agent for the Rothschilds. And their goal is to dominate the entire world politically and economically.
I think I read this in Quigley's book. I'm not sure, but I think he said that they gave a test run, more or less, to a federation, both in South Africa and Australia. Have you ever heard anything to that effect?
No, but I don't doubt it.
And you know, if you think about it, really, we look at Australia as the island continent, but you would think that they would be countries on the continent. Instead, they're just really provinces or states, are they not?
Yeah. And another thing a lot of people are not aware of, that they outlawed the private ownership of firearms in Australia. Australia at one time was a penal colony for the United Kingdom, and most of the present population of Australia are descendants of hardened criminals. And you would think that they would never give up their firearms. But several years ago, a guy so-called went berserk. He was probably under mind control. Mm-hmm. But he killed something like 37 people with an AK-47, and they immediately rolled out their gun control law and told the public they had 1 year to turn in their guns, and but the government would buy them. And once they bought them, and then they ran over them with bulldozers and melted them down. And I was in Australia a couple of years ago, and on a speaking arrangement, and I asked one of the people there, I said, did all the people in Australia turn in their guns? He said, no, about a third of them did, because the rest of them knew that someday they might defend themselves against their own country.
That's right. You know, we'll get to the Bilderbergers in a minute, but you did draw my memory a little bit when you talked about the African Union. Now we talked about perhaps South Africa and Australia being also dry runs for federation. But now you look at us, and would you consider this? We know that during the Civil War, before the Civil War, the South was much more prone states' rights, that the North was much more for bigger business, bigger government. Could it be that with the defeat of the South, that in a sense, they federated the United States to a certain degree with a large central government? How do you feel about that?
No, actually, the Rothschilds were behind the Civil War, and that's in my book. The elite serial killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. The Rothschilds wanted to create a central bank, and they were given a charter a couple of times, and then at the end of the charter, they refused to renewal. And so they decided that the way to do it is to take over the United States, so they created a secret organization called the Knights of the Golden Circle. And it quickly spread all across the United States, and then every member of the cabinet of the Confederate government were members of the Knights of the Golden Circle. And also all of Lincoln's cabinet were members of the Knights of the Golden Circle, except he and the Secretary of Treasury. And James Wilkes Booth was a member of the Knights of the Golden Circle, and he was given the orders to kill Lincoln. And the purpose was that Lincoln needed money to finance the Civil War, and his only source of that amount of money were the Rothschilds in London, Paris, Frankfurt, and Switzerland. And so instead of borrowing the money, he went to the Secretary of Treasury named Chase and instructed him to print money, and they call them greenbacks. He printed about $430 million worth of greenbacks and put them in circulation to pay the federal debt. And Rothschilds couldn't stand any nation, especially a fledgling nation like the United States, to create their own money and credit, for the rest of the world would see this happening and would decide they could do that also. And so they created a nice golden circle, divided the North and South. They had British troops in Canada and Mexico, and Spanish and French troops in Mexico, and the plan was that when the North and South had killed as many soldiers as they could and destroyed their weapons and burnt the gunpowder and gone heavily into debt, that these troops would come in from Canada and Mexico and retake the United States and bring it back under the control of the Crown. Well, Lincoln saw this coming, and so he contacted the Tsar of Russia and asked for his help, and the Tsar sent part of his fleet to anchor off New York City and the other part off the coast of California.
San Francisco, right?
And he informed the British, French, and Spanish that if their troops crossed the border in the United States, that Russia was going to take the side of the North and do battle. And so that kept them out.
Now, isn't that a completely omitted chapter out of our American history?
Oh, you won't read that in any history book, but that's what really happened.
Yes. We've had this before. Eric John Phelps, we spoke with him about that. He's the author of Vatican Assassins. And, it does make sense because Russia had just got done duking it out with the Brits and the French in the Crimean War back in 48, right?
Yes, and also the Rothschilds were upset with the Tsar of Russia for backing Lincoln, and so they started their plans into motion, and in 1916 they sent a group of Khazarian Jews from the east side of New York, and they smuggled them into Russia in a sealed boxcar, and once they got inside, they got out and spread across Russia and created the Bolshevik Revolution. So, and all the majority, at least 78% of all the key people within the Bolshevik Revolution were Khazarian Jews from New York City, and they murdered something like 66 million Russians, mainly the middle class.
Isn't that interesting then, that in a sense the Rothschilds kind of got even with Russia?
Yes.
And turned around, and with the help of those on this side, Schiff, I believe, in the United States, went ahead and funded the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yes, sir, that's right.
And right, and Trotsky was living on the east side of New York until he went over there, was he not?
Yes, he was. Well, there was something like 36 Khazarian Jews from the east side of New York were the main leaders. Trotsky was one of them. Lenin was also a Khazarian Jew. And I'm not anti-Semitic, but we need to bring the facts out to the public.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no problem with that. In fact, we've had on... are you familiar with Barry Chamish at all?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with Barry Chamish at all?
No.
No, it's just a situation where he's saying that his country has been hijacked just like the United States has,
yes, by
false Jews. So Jewry seems to absorb this blow for those who don't want to differentiate. But for Sharon and the rest of them, they're all Freemasons and have hijacked that country and they don't really speak for the Jewish people.
Yeah.
All right, we're with Gaylon Ross, author of The Who's Who. Let me get that straight, Gaylon, get from you. Who's Who of the Elite and the Elite Serial Killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. You're listening to AM 1350 WDCF. This is the Grassy Knoll, and we'll be back after these messages.
Nothing much happened in the looking box this month, except the potato chip man came by, and then there was the moon. We try to tell folks who come here to look at our town what a big, mean moon we have, but nobody will believe it. Last night it showed a the greatest ever. It just hung there, daring you to look at it, making silhouettes into things, and things came alive. It even shined plumb to the bottom of the canyon, under bluffs, and plopped dark donuts around the bottom of the trees on top of the mountain. It's the kind of moon that makes haunted houses uglier and ugly girls prettier. Little old animals see farther and feel closer together. Brave weeds rose up to look around for lawnmowers.
We're back at the Grassy Knoll, and I don't know if you noticed it or not. I was trying to be cute, Gaylon. These three choices I played for bumper music coming back in all have to do with Texas. Have you ever been to Looking Back?
Yes, I have.
You just heard their little poetry from the unofficial mayor of Looking Back, the late Hondo Crouch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, and that's off Jerry Jeff Walker's live albums. We got a live one here.
Yeah.
All right, getting back to a group that we did not speak about, could we move toward the Trilateral Commission?
Yeah, the Trilateral Commission was back in '72. David Rockefeller looked over the situation in the world, and he could see that the 15 largest banks in the entire world were located in Japan. And so he formed a group called the Trilateral Commission, which was made up of the elite of Japan, United States and Canada, and Western Europe, all in this group called the Trilateral Commission. And they meet once a year, and there's something like 300 members at any one time. And Dave Rockefeller founded that in 1973 and was chairman for a number of years and is honorary chairman ever since.
The Rockefellers strike again, don't they?
That's right. Dave Rockefeller is a very active person, and all the movers and shakers within all governments know that he is the lieutenant of the Rothschilds, and so they bow down to Dave Rockefeller.
I have another question. We've got, let's see, regarding the trilaterals. Do you know of any of them in particular that are Canadian? Are the Bronfmans in that situation?
Yes, the Canadians are involved in the Trilateral Commission, and also in the Bilderberg.
So did you answer yes, that in fact
yes.
The Bronfmans are involved in that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. There's another question that has been asked. It's we'll pose it to you later on because it's a little bit away from what we're doing here. But you know, I'll have to tell you, when Jimmy Carter came on the scene, I thought he was a breath of fresh air. You know, we had that debacle with Nixon's resignation, and then two unelected officials in the highest positions of government, when we had Ford as president and Rockefeller as vice president. And so Jimmy Carter comes on the scene, this governor from Georgia, and I remember when he was just racking up the primaries and saying, who is this guy? And he claims he's an evangelical Christian, but he was a charter member of the Trilaterals, wasn't he not?
He was Trilateral Commission and also Council of Foreign Relations, and when they announced that he was running for president, I said, finally we're going to get somebody that's not an insider, because he was a nuclear engineer and a peanut farmer, and I said, he can't be controlled. And but he was, then I later on found out that he's a member of the Trilateral Commission, Council of Foreign Relations, so he's just part of the insiders.
Okay. And he too was handled. Do you believe that one way or the other, that presidents have been handled? And I'll go back and say as far as Lincoln. What do you think?
Probably every president has been handled by the insiders to one extent or another. And in recent years, certainly since Wilson, they've been heavily controlled by the insiders.
And don't you think that Teddy was brought back out as a third-party candidate to take the votes away from Taft to get Wilson in, who the handlers knew they could control much better?
Yeah.
Also, in our library, there is correspondence between Lord Milner and Wilson, and it is fascinating, Gaylon, how Milner, actually it was between Colonel Edward Mandell House and Milner. That was with the correspondence, but, of course, it had to do with World War I and Wilson. And, I mean, when you look at what's taking place, I mean, Milner played House, and I don't think he needed too much help, like a record player to get them to get the United States into World War I.
That's right, and House actually controlled Wilson.
Oh, yeah, he's like a familiar spirit, and yet you can't find a trace of him either in our history books.
That's right.
So I will ask you this, if we can slide up to 9/11 in the time that we have. The questioner posed this. He said, if they needed 9/11, meaning the global elites, to get Afghanistan's opium and Iraq's oil, what will they need to do to get Canada's water? Now, are you familiar with that situation at all?
I'm not familiar with the Canadian water situation. I know that we probably will need it, but we shouldn't invade Canada to take control of it.
Yeah, do you agree though that in this sustainable development, this fake shortage of everything, that we're going to see a problem not only with oil but energy, food, and water?
Actually, the petroleum supply peaked in the year 2000. Some say it will be 2008, but I think that all the oil companies have overstated their reserves, and in reality that the world supply of oil peaked in 2000 and will be in a constant decline until it reaches zero. And so that's going to cause a massive worldwide problem, both for energy and in terms of inflation.
I'm talking with Gaylon Ross. His website is www.4rie.com. He has written Who's Who of the Elite and the Elite Serial Killers of Lincoln, JFK, RFK, and MLK. Do you have any more ordering information that you can share with the people?
I'd just say that if you're interested in finding out more about what's going on currently, to check out my website, and then that there's also an opportunity while they're there to check out the books that I carry, and they can order them from the website, or they can order by calling my toll-free number.
I'm going to take a guess when I saw the offerings that you do have up on the website, and I noticed a number of Anthony C. Sutton's books. I'm a fan. Were you a fan, can I say that, of his work?
Tony was a very dear friend of mine. In fact, when he was had published the hard copy of the last book, which is but I called him and I said, Tony, would you sign a copy of it? And so he said, absolutely. And it was American Secret Establishment, and so I waited and waited, and then all of a sudden I found out that he had passed away. And so a friend of his was going through his belongings and found the hardback copy that he had signed for me, and was kind enough to send it to me. And that was very, very kind of him to do that. But Tony was a brilliant person. He wrote a number of books, and he was always right exactly on course. He was dead center on the target of everything he ever found produced. One of the more reliable researchers I've ever known, and a very fine fellow.
Yeah, he has some great titles, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, Wall Street and FDR. And a lot of those are on online to read, and I am amazed about all he did in the time that he had.
Yes, he was just a very amazing person.
All right, one last question. I'm going to throw this to you, and you don't have enough time to respond to it in depth. I understand that, so I kind of short-sheeted you there.
Okay.
But the questioner says, was 9/11 an inside job?
We don't have absolute evidence that the elite were involved, but we do have absolute evidence that they used the 911 to create the new Patriot Act, and they'll come out with Patriot 2, and the purpose is to start gradually taking our civil rights away from us.
I would share this with you. I believe it in all my heart to be reliable, but a listener who's worked for a firm that had dealings with Rand Corporation heard certain principals in that group openly speak about how they had written Homeland Security in the 90s.
I don't doubt that.
We don't doubt that. We know for a fact, though, that our Congress isn't writing that in 10 days.
That's right. Okay. And they create called enemy combatants that they'll arrest you and call you an enemy combatant, and it makes you out under the Constitution and Bill of Rights.
Exactly. And we know that they're all ready for civil internees and camps and everything else, but Gaylon, we want to thank you for coming on.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been our pleasure, and believe me, and I know you're very...
Well, we're back. I will tell you, we were supposed to have Bob Chapman on. That didn't happen. I did get an email from Bob because he cannot phone me or anyone else for that matter. The phone service in Mexico went dead. And I tell you, of all the people I've had on, it's always been roughest with Bob. That's a lot of phone problems there, and today was one of them. We'll try to get him on as soon as possible. You've been listening to Robert Gaylon Ross's show from July 2004. I want to mention a couple of things. He said that Kerry would win, that Edwards had visited the Bilderbergs. That is true. And if you do believe that the 2004 election was also stolen in Ohio as the 2001 was in Florida, then you realize that maybe Bush and the cabal have run afoul of the powers that be for him not wanting to step down. That's just obviously speculation. Also, I want to make one correction, if I could, and that is I had said that the correspondence during Wilson's presidency was between House, which it was, and Lord Milner. It was Lord Grey. I just picked that up on myself. That in fact it was Lord Grey. There were 2 volumes of those letters. Also, if you could hear in the background what we used to call the Romulan whine, with all the feedback that there was in the board in the days when we were doing shows at DCF and ZHR, which were sold officially yesterday, so we're never going back anyway, although they did do some improvements. Those days are done, and I'm where I belong, I think, anyway. So, at any rate, folks, I tell you what, thanks for being with us. We will be back Monday, hopefully, with Ms. Kleiman to talk about corruption and U.S. Customs. Have a good weekend. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.